throwing on my headphones today to make sure everyone can hear me. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shiloh. My pronouns are he and him. I want to apologize again for having a late live stream. My doctor's appointment went way later than I thought, and I wasn't able to get home in time. So I appreciate you all joining a little bit later, or if you're watching it at a later time, welcome. So today, our live stream is going to be about Ruth and Naomi. And so 2 weeks ago, I did a live stream about Joseph and the colorful coat and how Joseph may have been a trans woman. So feel free to watch that one if you're interested in that one. But I talked about doing maybe a few other biblical characters and talking about how the queer community sees them and how they can or are queer stories within the Bible. And so this Monday I wanted to kind of chat a little bit about a really popular story about Ruth and Naomi. So they're biblical women who loved each other. And so a lot of folks ask the question, was that love more than being a daughter or a mother, or was it a little bit more intimate in a partnership way? And so we'll see. We'll go through that and kind of see why people are saying that and what are some of the interpretations we can see from that. So let's look at the story of Ruth and Naomi. And so the story of Ruth and Naomi is widely quoted by queer writers as an example from scripture that has to do with a possible lesbian love story, which is great because there's not a lot of women in the Bible, and if they are, they're usually really highly regarded, and so Ruth is very highly regarded in this story, same with Naomi. So how is it relevant? So if we read the story, superficially at least, it is just a simple story of an exceptionally strong family affection and loyalty between a mother and her daughter-in-law. So whether this was a lesbian story or not, the story is still quite relevant and a very powerful story nonetheless. So Naomi was an Israelite widow who was living in, at that time, a place called Moab, where her sons married to Moabite women. These women were named Orpah and Ruth. And so later on we see in the story that the sons of these two women, or the sons of Naomi, later died, leaving Naomi alone without a husband or a son. Or two sons, I guess, at that point. But she did still have her two daughter-in-laws. And when she heard that conditions in Israel had improved, she wanted to return back to her hometown, initially taking both of her daughter-in-laws with her. When she neared Israel, she had a change in heart and encouraged the two women to return back to their own homelands in Moab. After some persuasion, Orpah did leave. After weeping and crying and hugging, she left back to Moab, where Ruth refused and wanted to stay with Naomi. So after their arrival in Bethlehem, Naomi arranged a second husband for Ruth to a man named Boaz. And Boaz was part of the family of Naomi. And so then Ruth married Boaz, bore a grandson for Naomi, and later on, who then would support the both of them in their old age. And so the story is important in the Bible, mostly because of Ruth's connection to Jesus. And the reason for that is that Naomi was linked to David because Ruth was the great-grandmother of King David. And so that is why the story is most likely to be included in the Bible. But which is a strange story because it's all about, you know, the lives and the experience of two women who were in love. And if that love is family or if it's a lesbian one, that's still disputed. So we'll get into that a little bit more. So here we have, we're going to look into a little bit of the Hebrew. So this is why Ruth and Naomi are considered lesbians or have a lesbian or queer theme throughout the story. It's because there's a Hebrew word called debak, I think is how you pronounce it. I can throw the term in the chat here for you all to see if I can copy it. I'll throw it in the chat. So that is the Hebrew word, and it means here means cleaves to, clings to, stays close, joined together, deeply attracted to, hold. So all of those words of being like together with. And so what happens is that this word debak is used to describe Adam's feelings for Eve. And it's the same word that Ruth uses for their feelings towards Naomi. And so in Genesis 2:24, it says, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall become one flesh." So the way that Adam cleaved to Eve is the way that Ruth clung to Naomi when she didn't want to leave and wanted to stay with her. So countless couples have actually validated this interpretation by using their own vows as a model of how spouses should love each other. I was even looking into my little, it's huge. It's a huge book. It's the New Interpretive Study Bible. So this is the one that I used for university. It has all the standard versions and the Apocrypha. And I was looking at kind of what does this one flesh mean? And so if I looked at it, it actually from Ruth 1:14, which is where the story is coming from, it states in the notes that it uses the same word from Genesis. And so when I look at the Genesis one, it states that one flesh refers to both the physical union in marriage and to the establishment of a new kingship group through the marriage of persons from different families. And so this one fleshness we've often seen within the queer community as being this idea that, you have to have a penis and a vagina, and that both of these bodily parts fit together to make one flesh. But we see that there's numerous accounts of that not being the case, and that this idea of one fleshness has to do with more of a partnership or a cohort or a being a unit together. And I think I really understood that a lot more now that my partner and I have been living together. I don't do things because I need to do them. We do things because we need to do them. And now we are considered, one flesh in a way, where we do things together as a unit, as a family. And so this is kind of why the story is seen as a lesbian story, just because the same use of that one flesh, that connectedness, that marriage, that attractiveness towards Eve from Adam is the same Hebrew word that Ruth is personifying towards Naomi when she is told to leave. And so we see that the only thing that I have issues with this kind of understanding is that, yes, they do use the same words, and that is completely fact, and that the actual Hebrew understanding of those words are very different than how we understand them in English. As I posted in the comments, these are just a few of the dozens of definitions of what this word means. And so in English, there's a few of them, but in Hebrew, it could have been any of that. And so to say that it was meant to be a sexual or an intimate term rather than just a family term, it's hard to say. It definitely is a possibility, and I want to share that is a complete possibility. But it's also possible that she could have been saying it from a daughter perspective. And this also has to do with that it wasn't just those two verses that this word is found in. It's actually used 52 other times all throughout the Old Testament. And they all have different definitions and different ways of why they were saying it. A lot of the verses that this Hebrew word is used in is to talk about the closeness of something. So pieces of clothing being close to the skin, or skin being close to the bone, or being close within family, or being close within a certain location. And so there's many different parts of this word being found, and there's very different definitions behind it. But a lot of the reasoning behind why this is seen as a lesbian story is due to that Hebrew word. And this kind of relates a little bit towards the last live stream with Joseph, and how theologians have noticed that the word for the coat was a similar word that was used as a princess, or as a princess cloak, or some sort of garment that princesses would wear. And so a lot of it has to do with Hebrew and not knowing the full understanding of what they meant within the context of it. And so from what we see, it means that she wanted to stay close and cling to, but there is no proof in the pudding, I guess, to say that it was intimate closeness or if it was a familial closeness. And either or could be correct. Another reasoning why the story of Ruth and Naomi uh, is seen as a queer love story, a lesbian love story, is because of the vow that Ruth had and stated towards Naomi. And so there are actually no wedding ceremonies in the Bible. There are things that happen, there are weddings that happen, but there's no distinct word for word what happens in a wedding in the Bible. And so a lot of the times, the same-sex vows between Ruth and Naomi actually provide the best biblical model for wedding vows. And actually, few people realize that these beautiful promises were originally spoken from one woman to another. And these vows are actually used quite a bit within Jewish lesbian weddings, but also in regular straight or gay weddings or just any weddings in general. The Ruth 1:16 is usually stated within vows for the couple that are at least Christian or Jewish in that sense. And so the verse goes, "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God." And so that is this immortal words that Ruth states to Naomi of this desired need of being with this person, this loving this person, this loyalty towards Naomi. And so this leaves us with the question, so were they lesbians? Are they not? What's the answer? Long story short, there is no answer. There are multiple different interpretations that could be had within the story, but let's take a look at some of the things of why being lesbians has become more popular. And so Naomi was the mother-in-law of Ruth after her husband died. Naomi urged her to remarry, but Ruth refused, declaring her love in words that have, extra meaning for the LGBTQ folks because they were spoken between two women. So in the Bible, we see that Ruth was born into a pagan family and married a Jewish man named Boaz. And so because of her heterosexual marriage to Boaz and previously to the son of Naomi, she could have been considered bisexual. So this could show a little bit of bi-erasure, this idea that, just because there were two women means automatically that they were lesbians. She could have been bisexual, she could have been a lesbian, she could have been straight. I don't want to limit that at all either. So in Judaism, she was honored as a convert. Ruth was an ancestor of Jesus Christ. She's listed in his genealogy within the book of Matthew. And it reports mostly a male lineage, and Ruth is one of the 4 women who are included in that list. And so these 2 women are seen as inspirational just because they're very powerful women and their story is so inspirational, but also because of this female on female love that they seem to show. And even if it was a family love, you can still take their love and their inspiration that they have towards each other, and you can imply it to gay, straight, lesbian relationships because it's just such a profound way of giving yourself wholly to your partner or to someone that you love and cherish deeply. But I also want to say that it's also worth pointing out that Naomi's arrangement to have the marriage of Boaz for Ruth does not fully eliminate the possibility of them having a lesbian relationship. Just because, Ruth was married and then her partner died and then remarried a man doesn't mean that she's a lesbian. We see that happening all the time. Not so much now, but it still happens now where people who are LGBTQ marry into straight heterosexual relationships. And then vice versa with Naomi. Naomi had a spouse and had 2 sons, which all 3 had then died. Still doesn't mean that she wasn't a lesbian. At that time, cultural norms, social norms, family norms were really, really high. And so if they even were gay in some way, or bisexual or pansexual, they didn't have the understanding of the knowledge to express that in that way. And so what they were trying to do is survive. And I'll touch on this survival instinct a little bit more at the end here. So what the story meant in its original context does matter, and I think it can be reconstructed at least to a few degrees. I think there's many different stories that we can pluck out of these verses. So the first one being, it is a powerful story about being a Jewish convert, entering a marriage with a Jewish partner. Ruth was not Jewish, and then eventually, even stating within that vow, your God is now my God. And so that has a very huge theme within the story. We even see that it also speaks to feminists who see the authenticity in Naomi and Ruth's struggles to cope with a world made for and by men. And also, it matters to the couples who are gay or straight, who are moved by the lifelong loyalty and declaration and love that Ruth has for Naomi, and likewise. And so I think we can open up this story and take many different lenses from it. It being, a lesbian story, it being a family story, it being a refugee story. There's many different ways that we can view it, and I think folks who just look at it as a lesbian story, I think, are missing a lot of the awesome themes that are throughout the story. But likewise, conservative Christians who, hear that the queer community sees themselves within the story, are automatically like, nope, that can't happen. They were family. You can't be gay. They can't be gay. I also think that's wrong too. I think the story really opens up many different ways and many different lenses for us to look in and see ourselves in these stories. And so the openly lesbian interpretation of Ruth and Naomi actually dates back to at least in 1937. It may have even had a few things earlier than that, where people started to think about it, and I'm sure they did. But publicly, when the novel Piety for Women by Helen Anderson was published, there was too many characters in the novel named Anne and Judith, and they recite Ruth's famous vow to show their commitment as a lesbian couple. And so Ruth and Naomi also play a role in, a few years later, in 1971, lesbian historical novel written by Isabel Miller called Patience and Sarah. And so in this novel, it actually talks about the love blossoming between a woman named Patience, who was an educated painter, and a cross-dressing farmer named Sarah, which sounds like a great book. I haven't read it, but just that intro sounds quite awesome. And so actually because Patience was a painter, the first picture that Patience paints when they move in together is the embrace of the biblical women, Ruth and Naomi. And so there already is a huge theme within the queer community, especially within the lesbian community, that they see themselves in Ruth and Naomi and see their love as being similar to the love that Ruth and Naomi had. And also, to end off, I kind of want to talk a little bit about this male struggle that we see within this theme. And it kind of relates to a few other themes within the struggle between gender and sexuality within the church. And so, when I read Ruth, I was struck by the theme of how entirely and totally dependent these two women were on men. They were dependent on them for their full survival, their ability to, live, eat, sleep, anything. And even it shows, when Naomi's sons died, she is described as being left all alone without her husband and without her sons. Yet, she had two daughters. Her daughters were right there. But because their time and place in history, her daughters didn't matter. Having daughters had no count at all for how you survived and lived in this world. And so, much later, we see even, there's negotiations that led to marrying Ruth to Boaz. There's a lot of complicated bits about the sale price of land. Because here, the purchaser of the property of land is obligated to take the woman that's with it at that time, because women were sold as property along with the land that they were buying. And then we even see at the end of the story, there's this climax of the story saying that Ruth gave birth to a son who then can, and it says, who can then take care of both women in their old age. And I know I'm very young, and so I know my mom has said it to me that she's excited for me to take care of her when she gets older, and likewise. But we see that there's this overarching theme of patriarchy and male dominance, and this fact that these women had to do stuff that they might have not wanted to do in order to survive. And so that kind of goes hand in hand to what I mentioned earlier with this idea of, both Naomi and Ruth were in partnerships with men. They had children with men. But it's not because they wanted to, I don't think. I think it strongly had to do with the fact that they had to. And the only reason they had to is that they couldn't do anything else unless they went into prostitution, which they could have done as well. But I think another cool part about the story is that we even see that Boaz is a very loving and caring person. And so we see that that might have been another reasoning as to why I've heard some folks talk about why they chose Boaz to be her husband instead of the rightful person. There was one other male figure that was supposed to actually take Ruth and the land, but Boaz actually talked to the man and he was able to relinquish his rights so that Boaz could then marry Ruth. And so they chose Boaz, I think mostly because of his caring personality and that he actually wanted them to be happy. And so that could have also led into the reasoning as to why Ruth and Naomi are seen as kind of a lesbian couple as well, is that they chose Boaz as a husband, not because he wanted to be the husband or had to, but because he was a caring person enough that he might have been okay with their relationship. But again, it's all speculation. There's not a lot of information. Ruth is a very small book. And it's a powerful book. And I think there's a lot of things that we will never know. But there's a lot of speculation within that, and rightful speculation. I think a lot of these interpretations are all equally merit and valid. So yeah. So anyway, this reminder of this total dependence on women, or dependence of women on men, goes to the heart of the problems that the church has on matters of gender and sexuality. So women continue to be seen as inferior to men and are treated accordingly. We see that there's the inferior status is also why, the Leviticus prohibition is on men who lie with men as with women. And why so many societies then and now see it as shameful for a man to take the female part in male intercourse, but instead of to take the masculine active role. And so a lot of the verses we see in Leviticus, in even the New Testament with Paul, there's a lot of these anti-gay verses that we've talked about in the past and other live streams, if you want to take a look at those, that talk about, being gay is bad. But, being gay or homosexual wasn't put in the Bible until, 1946 or 1949. And a lot of these verses have to do with this social norm, not a physical norm or being natural or going against God's will, but this social norm of being high on the totem pole as a man. And so this plays into it as well, with this male patriarch, this dominance of masculinity within society that have from then and even now still have deep roots in why the church struggles with being accepting and open to more possibilities of gender and sexuality, because they're so still heavily ingrained in that male dominance. And so we see that, to end off, I guess, we see that Ruth and Naomi could have been lesbians. I'm going to end it on that. I don't have an answer for you, unfortunately, and I think that's a good thing. I think there are many different people, and that's what I love about the Bible, is that wherever you are in your life and in your situation, you can look at the same story as someone else and get a completely different understanding from it. Someone who, maybe married into Christian family and aren't super Christian. Maybe they read that and see something else. Maybe you are lesbian and you're in a lesbian relationship and you read this and you see yourself in Ruth or you see yourself in Naomi. That's also a huge possibility and huge, and that's just as fine as the other one. You know, you may even see yourself as just being a woman and seeing that, you know, you might have had to do stuff in your life and even now that you might have not wanted to, but you had to survive. And so this story, I think, shows many themes of different oppressions and love and hope, I think. But to say that they are lesbians or are not lesbians, I don't think that's something that we will ever fully know or fully understand. But I think we need to be okay with being open to different interpretations and okay with being open to the fact that, you know, they could have been gay. They could have been in an intimate relationship. But they also could have just been, you know, mother and daughter. And either or is totally okay. And it doesn't really change um, how we see it because it's still two women that love each other, um, and that the way that they love each other is something that we should take and love other people with. We should take the way that they loved each other, regardless of it being family-wise or intimate-wise, and really embody that and spread that type of love and that loyalty to those in our own personal lives. So yeah, so that's all I had to share today on the stories of Ruth and Naomi and kind of some of the story of why people are saying that they may be lesbians and kind of where the Bible takes us with that and what are some of the Hebrew behind it and some of the history behind why people have been thinking um, why they're lesbians or not. And so I wanted to give you all kind of a general overview and kind of to come to your own interpretations of it to see where the story goes and how it influences you. And so yeah, if you want to throw in the comments kind of what are some parts of the story that influence you, if it's the, you know, the love between the two women part, if it's the, you know, family part, if it's the loyalty, there's many different aspects of the story. So I'd love to see in the comments what kind of part of the story really impacted you and in why, in what way. And so I'd love to see some of those. I'd love to read those a little bit later. Again, I apologize for the late live stream. My doctor's appointment went super late. So I'm glad that you were all able to join me at 1 o'clock instead of noon. So well, take care. I will see you all next Monday and stay tuned for someone else. We may be doing Jonathan and David next. So stay tuned for one more queer biblical character. And at this time, it might be the two biblical gay characters. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next Monday at noon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.